of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, we can get Joe to go first,
Okay. I'm sure he'll
because
be glad to.
there's no
Yeah.
discussion here. So I want to welcome everyone to our first council meeting of the new year, and Happy New Year's to everyone. Please note, we are missing Dr. Young, and Jan Scott is out also. Dr. Young he had an item on the agenda under items from council with respect to the trees, and he is ill. He really wanted to be here. He did request that item be placed on the agenda, but he's also contagious and did not want to share that with us, so that's why he's not here. Before we go into that, under items from council, is there anything else you want to bring up or pull? Or we have a short agenda tonight for the most part, so, okay. Since Dr. Young, and I have nothing under council, I'm seeing no one, okay. So what we're going to do, we'll just move straight into citizens' communication, and since Dr. Young's not here to speak in particular about the tree issue, of course, since it's on the agenda, that gives us a chance to address it or talk about it amongst ourselves if need be. So we'll move into citizens' communication and anyone who would like to come forward. Now, we do have one item. Joe Brannon is here. There he is in the back. And, okay, we're going to have an update on the Victoria Transit System, the fire. If y'all would like to come up and do that now, you may not want to wait through the rest of the discussion. Well, you're welcome to stay. Okay,
Yeah, and Lisa Cortinas, of course,
yes,
is with Joe.
thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to give you an update on our fire. I do have some handouts. We'll give you short bullet points about where we're at right now.
Just give them to the bailiff over here.
Joe.
Give them to the baby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, sir.
Here, I'll take them for these guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. This was a horrific fire, but we survived. Just kind of want to give you an update by bullet point. On our fleet, of course, we operate two types of services, the small urban system in the city of Victoria. And we've lost about 73% of our fleet, which represents 22 of our urban buses. And just to give you some information, our buses, we have a majority of our buses are older. They range from 2009 to 2015. The replacement costs for those buses are going to be about $1.9 million to replace those buses. That included technology that we had on our system as well, surveillance cameras, that kind of thing, that's included in the cost of the bus replacements. On the rural side, not only did we have at this location our small urban buses, but we also had our rural fleet for Victoria, and we lost 11 of those vehicles as well. And that's going to be about $800,000 to replace those. Fortunately, we were able to get services up and running quickly. When the fire happened on Saturday, we were going to run normal services. Unfortunately, we were not able to do that day. Then the holidays came, so Tuesday, when we started our service on Tuesdays, in the morning we started out running hourly routes. And then by midday, we had some fleet that we brought in, and we were able to get back on a normal schedule, which was fantastic. A special thank you to the fire marshal's office and the fire department. They did such an excellent job putting out the fire. It could have been a lot worse. We had buildings next to it. Could have really been a bad situation, but we were able to save some of the fleet. We really appreciate the fire department's quick action on taking care of that fire for us. We did have a large response from our transit community, and we've had a lot of calls from the different systems around the state. And not only our transit systems, but we also had VISD, which really came to us and have provided us with 5 of their buses. And so that's what we've been seeing. If you've been seeing our buses, they're actually VISD buses, and we have those on our fixed route. Fortunately, the schools were out and closed, so that helped us. So we're working now this week on getting more loaner fleet so we can get those school buses back to the school system for them to start their normal routes next week. Excuse me. We've had several agencies, which I've listed there, that have provided us with some loaner fleet, and we're still in conversations with a couple other systems around the state who are going to be pitching in and helping us with replacement vehicles. We have a temporary bus yard location. The Victoria Electric Co-op moved to a new location, so we're actually using their old location on Ben Wilson to house some of our current vehicles. So they're in a secure locked lot, which is great for us right now. Insurance, we do have replacement insurance through Texas Municipal League on our vehicles. However, since these vehicles are older, they're not going to be covered at 100% because there's going to be some depreciation there. But we've already been in contact with the state and the federal government, and we're looking at moving some vehicle money, some bus replacement grant money. So we're hoping, and they've made verbal promises to us that they're going to make us whole. So that's great. Anything else, Joe, that I missed? This is kind of as we're at today, and I think we're moving pretty quickly. So like I said, I just appreciate everybody's assistance. Everybody's pulled in and helped, and the most important thing is we get the service out to the public. Now, I've also listed my contact information. Feel free to share this if you need to. If you get calls from someone, feel free to share our contact information.
Okay, great report.
Okay.
And I'm really happy to see you had insurance. That was my one question, so.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
I just want to reinforce the fact that this was quick. I mean, Dr. Jekylish had an email from their attorney about 10 o'clock that morning offering their vehicles. We had a signed agreement by 11 o'clock.
That's great.
The electric co-op by 1 o'clock, of course, we got somebody's cousin working for us, but that's okay. This is a small city. But they had made their space available. The fire department was just incredible with their response. They offered vehicles. It was like, this is 2 days before Christmas. And everybody just turned out. So it's been an eye opener, but the amount of concern and speed with which people manifested is just amazing and appreciated.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for this report. Council?
I wanted to say something. My son works for a transit company up in San Antonio, and he said Viva was interested in, if you could call them, the
Okay,
Viva.
Via?
Via, because they're getting rid of the smaller buses like the ones we use.
Right.
And replacing them with bigger ones, and, they talked to him about it, and I forgot to give you a call.
Okay.
So if you want to call Viva.
Okay, I'll be glad to call Via.
Okay, Viva.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there calls?
Is there a cost for to
fire.
loaning the vehicles?
No, calls.
The fire marshal I talked to him Thursday morning, and they pinpointed it. They know where it started as to whether there were cameras on the back of the old Albertsons building. It did not show anybody. There was an officer parked on the Laurent Tower side of the lot. Said he smelled smoke and whipped around. It didn't see anybody, but as of yet, we don't know. The vehicle that supposedly was the one that caught first had been sitting there since 6:30. So it had been there from 6:30 to 3:30, 4 o'clock. I got a call at about 10 to 5, and they figured the fire had started probably 45 minutes earlier. It started with one, and if you remember, the 23rd was just crazy windy. It was just blowing like madness, and which probably saved that building because it just kind of moved everything around. But will we ever find out? Who knows? I mean, the fire marshal's investigating. I know they've talked to ATF. They've talked to the state fire marshals as well. So we're still kind of, and I wasn't going to push them during the holidays.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, best wishes. It looks like you've done well so far.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still in citizens' communication. If anyone would like to come forward and speak, now would be the time. And just a name for the record is all we need. And try to keep your remarks to 5 minutes or less out of respect for everyone else.
Certainly will do that. Thank you. My name is Helen Walker. I proudly live at 407 East Santa Rosa Street in Victoria, Texas. I purposely did not want to live anywhere else when I retired than Santa Rosa Street and built my house there because of the canopy of oaks. First, I'd like to thank the city for the efforts and funding that have been put into the downtown area. Dedication of years of work on the underground utilities, streets, and sidewalks, support of the Victoria Main Street program, and other actions to revitalize our beautiful downtown. The people who love downtown are forever grateful for all of this. We're saddened to lose the two beautiful oaks in the 300 block of Santa Rosa Street. And while we must recognize the owner's right to take these trees down, we plead with the city to help us protect what's left of this historic street and in other parts of our historic district, at least those trees that front on the streets. As I say, I built my house definitely downtown for the purpose of living on Santa Rosa Street. My understanding at that time was that the trees in the city's easement could not be removed, and I'm sorry that that's not correct. We lost so many trees in Victoria from Hurricane Harvey that we really need to protect what we have left, particularly the historic area. My hope is that you'll consider putting a short, maybe 30 to 60 days, moratorium on cutting down trees and allow us to work with you to create protection for such an important part of our beautiful town. About 50 Texas cities have tree ordinances, some of which might be patterns for us. Our goal is a conservative approach to preservation of Victoria's wonderful heritage, not to infringe on owners' rights. And we thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Didn't take 5 minutes. Thank you, Mayor.
Better take off my glasses so I can see what I need to say. My name is Gary Dunham, and I live at 508 North Glass Street. The removal of the oak trees from the north side of the 300 block of East Santa Rosa Street has certainly stirred up a lot of controversy since Christmas Eve. The word historic gets bandied around quite a lot. I'm not concerned that these oaks were labeled historic, though their age certainly qualifies them for that. I'm concerned and saddened that there is so little appreciation for what these trees added to the beauty of one of Victoria's most picturesque streets. They formed the beginning of a canopy of limbs and leaves that extended all the way to Cameron Street. Because of the amount of traffic during the first half of the 20th century to and from Southern Pacific Depot at the eastern end of Santa Rosa, this was, so to speak, our second Main Street. I keep wondering just why these trees had to be cut down. The Advocate reported no plans have been filed with the city for a proposed house, or is it to be a duplex? Did these oaks pose a threat to the construction of future housing? Can anyone here truthfully answer this question? Time and again, we are confronted with the attitude that nobody is going to tell me what I can and can't do with my property. Well, thanks for thinking of others and for being such a good neighbor. We should all give more thought to the effect our actions have on other people. Little by little, we are losing the historic fabric of our city to acts of vandalism And I'm speaking of the thoughtless and needless removal of the oaks on Santa Rosa Street. I suspect that it is the very character of this streetscape that makes East Santa Rosa such a desirable place to build a new home and to live. The Advocate reports that preservationists are upset and concerned about the loss of these trees. I can assure you that there are an awful lot of people who don't give two hoots about preservation, but who appreciate and want to see the oaks of Santa Rosa Street preserved and protected. How can we ever hope to have a beautiful city if we, both citizens and our elected officials, do not place a higher value on our natural assets? Can we not extend a little more protection for the particular southern charm of our historic districts? That would be a good start. In closing, I want to mention the State Registry of Championship Trees. Several years ago, Victoria lost the state champion Durand oak during a storm. It stood on Riverside Golf Course. I checked the registry a couple of days ago and found it somewhat out of date. It listed the state champion Anaqua tree, which recently stood on the east side of Councilman Andrew Young's home, as holding the state record. I believe that much of that tree disappeared during Hurricane Claudette in 2004. Harvey took care of the rest. Well, there's little we can do when Mother Nature is involved. I was checking the state registry because I believe the magnificent Anaqua tree, which was felled by Hurricane Harvey from its place at 505 North Glass Street beside the historic Venable Bland Proctor House, would have qualified as the official state champion Anaqua tree in Texas had we obtained the necessary measurements. Drive by and have a look at the drip line of that tree. Its circumference is shown by the large ring of jasmine that marked its size. Oaks of many species are regarded as mighty. Hurricane Harvey felled a magnificent live oak from in front of the McCann home, 401 North Glass. Victoria lost hundreds of beautiful trees. This is a changed place in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. I urge you to move quickly and positively to preserve and protect our trees, and I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Dunham.
Good evening. My name is Gary Hall. I live at 309 East Santa Rosa Street. I'm currently the chair of the Victoria Historical County Commission also. My house is directly across the street from where the oaks were cut down. I'd like to commend Mayor Polasic. When I realized that those two oaks were about to be cut down in the easement, I called him, and within moments, he was there on the scene. I think that's extremely commendable. He actually got the owner of the lot on the phone and tried to reason with him to delay the cutting the oaks, because it was on Christmas Eve, on a Sunday, at least delay until there could be a discussion. The owner refused, the oaks were cut down. Personally, I think this shows disrespect to our mayor, it shows disrespect to our neighborhood, to Victoria's history, and to the city. And I don't like people showing disrespect to any of those above. So I would ask, basically echo what Judge Walker and Gary Dunham said, that you consider giving some landmark protective status to certain trees in Victoria. The Anaqua that Gary mentioned that was lost in Hurricane Harvey would have been such a tree that would have been worthy of such status. I think the oaks on Santa Rosa are also worthy of such status. We can't protect against the disaster, natural disaster and loss of trees through such as Hurricane Harvey, but you as a body can help protect some of the trees that are special, that make Victoria a special place to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Fun on this side of it. Bernard Climus. As many of you know, I've lived in Old Victoria for almost 35 years. My office is 100 feet down Santa Rosa, right where this took place. But I'm not here to talk about the trees being cut down. At some point, the city has to make a determination that the historic district is worth being not only a historic district, but a draw for economic and for people to come to Victoria. When they go on the walking tour, when they go on the driving tour, what are they going to see? Is it going to be like Cuero, Yorktown, Fredericksburg, or some of the towns that have gone the wayside? I'm here to offer a small suggestion as to a solution, since that's usually better than complaining about problems. You already have at the city a department for building permitting and inspections. For the people, and I'm one of them that say, don't tell me what I can do with my property, the city already does it. You have to permit buildings, you have to permit electric, you have to permit pretty much any material change you make to your property. This is no different. It just needs a standard that says at some measurable, discernible 24-inch circumference, pick one, you have to go get a permit and determine if it materially affects the overall quality or historic value of the other property owners. Those trees come down, it affects my value, not just the person who's cutting it. The other thing we have to recognize is there are trees that must be cut down. There was a tree in front of my office that was probably 4 stories high, huge circumference, completely hollow rotted. Thank God they cut it down before Harvey hit, or it would have been on top of my office. But we have the resources in place with the city to establish an ordinance that will say if you're going to make a material change to a structure or to a, not a much a tree, a property in a designated historic district, such as Old Victoria, file for a building permit and let the inspection department come out and determine. Open it and let the neighbors know if there's a comment. Once you've done that, as a city, you've done all you can do. There will always be circumstances you can't control, but I can't imagine the trees being gone. I have always lived in Old Victoria for almost 37 years. In Victoria, I would live nowhere else, and the number one draw that got me down there were trees. I felt like I was back in a real town, in a real city. I'm just asking that if I can help, or if there's any direction, look to the other cities that have done it, but you have all the resources you need right in place to take care of this problem to the satisfaction of both sides of the aisle. And I am amazed that I have 2 minutes left. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens.
Hello. My name is Sandra Mackenzie Hardy. I live at 503 East Constitution, about a block away from where the trees were on De Leon and Santa Rosa. And like Bernie, although I'm not quite as old as Bernie yet, I moved to Victoria and settled in that area. In fact, I moved to Santa Rosa and rented one of the Santa Rosa Oaks cottages, and then eventually built a house, or redid an old house in that neighborhood because I loved the trees and I loved the community. I love living downtown and being able to walk to work. The trees have a utilitarian as well as an ornamental value. They are what is essentially part of an urban forest. Now, I learned about that when these trees came down, and I started looking at what do other cities do, and they do have ordinances, and they have ordinances that say, well, if it's a certain circumference, like 19 inches, then they have to get a permit to cut it down. So I measured the felled tree with the help of one of my neighbors. It was in the sidewalk, so we weren't on private property, and the circumference was like 91 inches. And the slab is like 45. So it wasn't just these 2 trees, though, that were felled. We couldn't measure the other trees because they were inside the property. Like Bernie, like everyone else here, we don't want to infringe on individuals' rights to do what they want to on their property, but we live in community. And as part of living in community, you give up some rights to acquiesce to what other people need. So again, trees are ornamental, they're utilitarian. They provide wildlife habitat, they provide coolness for the homes in the neighborhood, they provide an economic benefit. My granddaughter, home from Baylor College, made a sign and it said, keep it green. And it's true. It's like, keep it green because it's beautiful. Keep it green because it brings money into Victoria. I noticed that the house catty-cornered from the place where the trees were felled. They put on their website trying to sell that house that it was on the Arbor Line Street at Santa Rosa. So clearly it's something that benefits, encourages people to move here. So I looked, and there are already subdivision restrictions in that block with the help of some really nice people at the city who met with me the day after Christmas and showed me, O.C. Garza and Lila showed me. And basically, you know, this is not in a commercial zone, although the Advocate is in that block. The area where the trees are residential, and there was no permit. There wasn't even a permit to block the street, which they had done with all the tree refuse. But basically, there was no permit, so I don't know what possessed them to cut down the 2 trees between the sidewalk and the street or the other large trees in their yard. But again, we hope that you keep it green and come up with an ordinance. If we have to be restrictive, then yes, look at the historic district, but look at what some of the other cities have done around the country, and they're looking at a tree ordinance plan that's actually a plan for the whole town, for the park and the downtown to preserve the trees. Finally, in Claudette, I was walking one day, and they were about to top out the trees. So we're not just looking at cutting down trees, we're looking at what you do when you have to trim a tree after a hurricane or something like that. So I'll close with this. It's a poem by Joyce Kilmer called Trees. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie.
Good evening. My name is Walter Womack. I live in McFadden, but I have a house and lived till just recently, just around the corner from the lot that we're talking about. Shortly after Christmas, I was driving back and came past and going back over to the house where I live, where some friends of mine live now. And I was astonished to see those trees lying on the ground and the men cutting them up. It was disconcerting, to say the least. However, I am a property owner and I'm a landowner, and I feel that there is a great need to be very careful when we start telling other people what to do on their property. I've heard a whole lot of people tell me this evening, 3 people said, we don't want to infringe on anybody's rights, and yet I think that's exactly what they want, is they want y'all or some authority that has the power to do so to tell other people what they may and may not do on their property. That's a dangerous slope to get on. And I warn you, or I advise you, to be very careful about it. I bought the place I bought in Victoria, in downtown Victoria, because I didn't want anywhere else. And I lived there for about 4 or 5 years. And if I ever wanted to move to Victoria, I'd move back to the same area. I think that these things are wonderful to have. And I just feel like somewhere you can't tell somebody, as when they already own a piece of property and they bought it thinking that it was this way, that no, we've changed our minds, and for the greater good, we're going to make you do this, or we're going to prohibit you from doing that. We've already heard about topping trees, and trees in the interior of lots, and trees on the outside of lots, and trees running up and down a particular street. Where does it stop? Where do we begin to say, maybe we don't have the right to tell people what to do here and there? I hope you can find a solution for us, because I really would like to preserve downtown Victoria and the beauty of all trees in particular. But be very careful, it would be my advice to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizens communication still open if anyone else would like to speak. come forward. Just your name for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Doris Santiago. I've been living at 402 East Santa Rosa, right across the street from where these beautiful oak trees were cut down. I've been living there since 1964. My father moved us there from the other part of Victoria because he was working at the post office. George Santiago. He worked from the very bottom, and when he retired, he was postmaster in 1987. I have a picture here of these beautiful trees.
We can pass it around if you'll give it to the officer.
Yeah, as I said, we've been living on Santa Rosa Street since 1964. We have seen families come and go. We have seen neighbors of ours grow old and pass away. And they are all beautiful people. The people that live on Santa Rosa are some of the best neighbors in the world. And Christmas Eve, I was at the bathroom window, the kitchen window to prepare a meal for my mother. My mother's 93 years old, and she's been very active here in Victoria herself. Right now, she's on hospice. And I know it would break her heart right now if she saw what has happened to those beautiful oak trees. So I look out my window and I see my neighbor sitting under the tree. I was already told earlier by Gary Hall, that there wasn't anything that we could do about these trees, that the owner was insistent on cutting them. And his reasons are his own, and it would really be wonderful if we understood why he had to destroy those beautiful trees. And I hope you take in consideration what makes Victoria such a beautiful place. We are a very historic town, not only for Texas itself, but for the United States. And Santa Rosa, as it was said earlier, was at one time a main street. At the turn of the century, people had parades there. On Sundays, people in their Sunday best would take their buggies up and down Santa Rosa Street. That's why many of the older homes there have balconies and porches, because people would gather there for their parades. I know that there are certain things that we cannot do in downtown Victoria, the historical district. We can't build, throw up a carport or bring in a mobile home into a vacant lot or a modular home. We have restrictions. And when it comes to easements, the city property, well, it's also our property. We are citizens of this town. We pay taxes. And I would like you to please consider what we can do to protect what is beautiful and what is aesthetic. And also, you are in a position, you have power, and keep learning what you can use and what you can utilize in protecting and also enhancing this beautiful community. I was born and raised here. I went to Mitchell School. My daughter went to Mitchell School. My mother went to Mitchell School. And so we're a very integral part of this community, and watching those trees come down was like seeing a neighbor or a good friend die, and you can do nothing about it. So thank you for letting me have this chance to say something. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizens communication is still open. If anyone else would like to come forward, now would be the time. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close citizens communication. Council, did you have any remarks? It was on the agenda that y'all would like to share now, or what I would, let me say this. Perhaps we can put it on the next agenda when Mr. Young is here and hear what his thoughts are. I'll ask him about that because since he asked for it to be on the agenda. But do y'all have any remarks at this point? Okay. I just would say this, I just wanted to listen tonight, but with respect to my conversation with the landowner, and I appreciate Mr. Hall's comments. It was a good conversation, and he was very polite, and I just told him I disagreed. I thought the trees added value, and if they were mine, I wouldn't cut them down, but I also told him they're not mine, and I recognize that fully. They're yours. So I just, I thought it was, I was asked to call, and I did, and that's what I did. So we'll see. We'll see if there's any options available or what Mr. Young would like to discuss concerning the issue. Our next meeting will be the 16th. Okay. Thank you for all the good feedback tonight. All right, we'll move into the rest of our agenda, which shouldn't take but a few minutes, I don't think. We have one item on the consent agenda.
That's right, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 19th, 2017.
Councilman?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Okay, that passes. E1.
Item E1 is a resolution granting a variance to Section 21-9B4 of the Victoria City Code related to subdivision and development, which requires the property to be platted prior to the issuance of a building permit for the placement of a manufactured home on property located at 1607 Carville, a private road, and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Yeah, actually there is. How did this subdivision get done that way? I know why it was named that way. The gentleman is a friend of mine, but I thought he had done that in proper deeded manner.
What was the question?
Carville.
Right.
How was it done?
What was, why?
You have a question?
Okay, how did it become an unplatted, undeeded road?
We don't know.
Nobody can
It
find any
happened, we
records?
believe that the property owner, I believe in the early 80s, late 70s, sold off some pieces of property, but never created a plat, never legally platted the property. He gave easements to those to whom he sold lots, but strictly an access easement. So the people that own lots down that road, that private road, have no ability to get public utilities extended to their lot because there's no easement, there's no utility easement to get there. So they strictly have a right to drive up and down that road to access their property. This one particular lot at 1607 had a manufactured home on it. It had a water well and septic tank that were operational, and the home was destroyed by the hurricane.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure there are more situations out there that will unwind like this over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always kind of,
Okay.
I think the Planning Commission and Planning Department did a good job with the restrictions placed on this variance. It was very fair to the landowner and to maybe get it back into compliance someday.
A
That's
good
the
point.
goal.
Thank you. Good point. Thanks for saying that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Okay, ayes have it.
E2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the Fourth Amendment to the Fleet Management and Maintenance Agreement with First Vehicle Services Incorporated to allow modified fees for an additional technician for a target cost of $1,253,786 and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to accept item E2.
Second.
Okay, motion, second. Questions? I know you're ready to answer some.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Solis?
Okay, I was just looking, the original date was 2013. This amendment's only to add one technician on there, right?
Yes, ma'am. This will add a technician to work and then help install radios and stuff. We had our communications person retire this year, January 31st, after 35 years of service to the city. And so this technician will take that place. We're not, as a city, hiring a replacement.
Very good. No further questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same.
I would also, while I'm up here, like to take the chance to introduce Roger Welder.
Okay.
Roger is our new fleet administrator. He took the place of Jerry Seifert, some of you may have met through the years, who retired January 31st after 30 years of service to the city. So Roger took over, actually, he came to us, I think we hired him mid-October. He actually came in, so he had a couple of months to spend with Jerry, and now it's all him.
Okay. Well, welcome. Very good. You know, I knew you were with us now, and I see the resemblance now to your family. So welcome. Heard good things about. Yes,
He
yes,
comes
sir.
from the private sector, and we're excited about what he's going to bring to the city and his ideas and how he's going to manage that contract. We're
Good.
looking forward to what he brings.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, E3.
E3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Fundabounds in the amount of $349,439.51 to repair and restore various areas within city parks damaged by Hurricane Harvey and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Okay, we have motion second. Are there questions?
I have a couple of them.
Yes, ma'am.
In looking at the pictures, you know these flag-type covers that we're buying? What is the strongest winds that they can carry or they can withstand?
That's a very good question. I'll have to look into that and come back with a different answer for you. I don't
Because
have an
if it's
answer right
not
now.
high enough, maybe we could get something that could take a little bit higher winds. It looks like, we're going to replace some of them, replace them with something that's going to be more durable. Some of them look pretty durable, but some of them look kind of thinner, like tarp.
I can look into that.
Are they easily taken down, or is it a lot of work?
They are pretty easily taken down. We recently just had one replaced out on one of the championship fields. Took a day.
Oh, okay. That's not easy to me. I
Well,
thought you
it
would
was-
say
It was one of
45
the
minutes.
largest ones. It was one of
Okay.
the wraparound ones, and that was a two-man job, and it took one day.
Maybe the next hurricane you'll have time to take them down. We went from no hurricane to hurricane in 4 hours, so
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, that's a
Yeah.
good question. You never know.
That's a good point.
Okay.
And just as a reminder to council, we established the fund for hurricane damage stuff, so this is being paid for out of that. And as we receive insurance reimbursements, that money will go back into that fund. So we're eager to get this done for the parks.
Yes.
Yeah, I know y'all all saw FEMA reimbursement next to every area. That put my mind at ease. I'm sure you guys too. And I do want to commend you guys in the finance department for the way you are accounting for everything. I know in my conversations with others in past years, the FEMA coming back and doing audits, and it can get really difficult years, 5, 6 years later. As I understand, they've made lots of improvements, so record keeping is critical. So
And
commend y'all
that's
for that.
Andrew and his record. And then two
There he
FEMA
is.
inspectors have been in looking at all of our projects. So
Okay. All right.
it's moving.
Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Okay, ayes have it. Do you have a couple items?
I have just a few items that aren't on the agenda, just reminders. And since Mr. Hall is here, I don't think he left. Your father-in-law served, I think, probably close to 30 years as our public library director for all those years. And on behalf of the city staff and council, we extend our sympathies to your loss. So I know that's a great loss to Mitzi and the children. So thank you for that. And we appreciate all that James did for our community during the time for the library. Two other things real quick. The golf course grand opening is Saturday. And so we're going to do, like we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, an 11 o'clock for any of you that want to come out, maybe hit a first tee off to signify the opening. We've got tee times earlier in the day, and we hope people come out and golf. It looks like Saturday's going to, the weather's going to shape up a little bit, maybe perfect golfing weather with the sun out in the 60s. So hope that works well. But we'll send you a reminder out, and we will post that as a notice for that meeting. So the other thing, on January 16th, you'll have on your agenda the Crestwood Drive decision points. You know, remember December 5th, Jan Scott brought up the idea of looking at concrete, reducing that road to 3 lanes, and put a conjunctive use sidewalk on it. So we need a decision point on council from that, and so that'll be back on the January 16th meeting for that decision point. If you need any other additional information, if you'll let me know, I'll get that to you before that date. So those are my 3.
Okay. Then that concludes our business, so we have no further discussion. We're adjourned. Thank you.